Colonel, Putin today, he had a program in Russia. They call it and Putin's direct line. He was talking with the people in Russia, answering the question, the public opinion, just communicating with the Russian people. And he said that Ukraine is not prepared for peace. And this somehow is in line with what just Larry just said. And the United States is seeking for a immediate solution for the war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is not going to have an immediate solution. They have to learn how to communicate, how to get along with each other. Basically, I would say Europeans and Russia. And we are not there anymore. We're not there, and you don't see the Trump administration trying to do anything in that direction, unless talking directly with the Russians, sending Steve Witkoff with Kushner. What is your understanding of that?
My understanding is that Witkoff and Kushner and others represent Trump's wishes, and those wishes are money. And that's all there is to it. And he understands how much money would accrue were he to reestablish economic relations with Moscow. He is prepared to go over Europe's head, around their flank, or through their dead bodies if he has to. I'm not sure that he understands what that means, but I think he's prepared to do that. Will he, however, have the support of those within his own domestic circle, like Marco Rubio and others, to do that and to force it to happen? And what will it mean for U.S. relations with Europe? Now, footnote that with the fact that NATO is already moribund. NATO needs to go away. It won't for some time to come, but it needs to go away. The most dramatic move in that regard could be Erdogan actually fulfilling one of his, off-the-cuff remarks and unanchoring the southern flank and suddenly making NATO really moribund. I mean, instantly. And not only that, but not declaring some sort of, or practicing some sort of neutrality, but noticeably putting his flag with this inexorable movement of power towards the east. That would be a dramatic moment that would make all this conversation moot. I think Trump is prepared, though, ultimately, if he can pull it off politically, to disregard the Europeans, throw Zelensky on the garbage heap, and have a deal with Russia. Now, how he handles that with his base will be anybody's guess, because I'm not sure his base is lined up with that objective. But we see what he's doing with the Epstein scandal. That's partly what Venezuela is about. The scandal's getting worse and worse every day. And Venezuela is a wagging the tail, dog wagging, whatever the hell the aphorism is. Same thing Bill Clinton did with Serbia when he was involved with Monica Lewinsky. And I do think that part of the problem there is he's looking at the polls and states like Alabama, states like Indiana. And even he, in his, I think, somewhat diminished form now, is figuring out that his coalition is falling apart. The Kirk assassination might be said to have started it dramatically, but now it's for other reasons. It's for affordability. You've got real problems in Alabama with people contemplating what their health insurance is going to be like 1 January. If you've seen the stats on it, it's hundreds of thousands of Alabamans. And this is not good for MAGA. So all of this domestic politics is such an important part of foreign policy and security decision-making now, usually negatively. And with this administration, put a line under that negatively, that I don't know where this is going. And I'm not sure Trump does either, really. And that's disquieting. One of the reasons Susie Wiles came out and did that interview, I think, is she is trying to establish some cover for herself, because she, amongst very few others, understands what's happening to them.
Yeah. Larry, your take.
Well, I would add, I think actually Susie Wiles has been part of the problem. And I'm not excusing, Trump's daft behavior, but when she admits that, she was one of the ones blocking release of the Epstein files. and on other actions such as, helping Trump deliver on some of the promises he made about going after those who were responsible for Russiagate. So the chaos that's evident right now within the Trump administration is, it's only going to get worse, and unfortunately, Trump has, he doesn't have the ability to make personnel decisions that will, as part of a broader strategy to advance his administration. I mean, they continue all this happy talk about how great the economy's doing, and yet the polls are showing consistently people are upset. The inflation is much higher than the government's reporting, and I think I commented, said this to you in a recent one of our last conversations. Yeah, I've got a couple of Rottweilers, and we buy these logs. They look like a a giant package of sausage of hamburger meat. And about a year and a half ago, we were paying $12 for one of those. It's about 3 pounds of hamburger. Now it's up to almost $20, and so and that price it's gone from 16 to 20 in just the last 6 months. So you've got some real economic issues here in the United States, and instead you get Trump with this delusional nonsense about, oh, everything's great, we got the best ever, it's and when you've got a leader that's so out of touch with reality, and then enabled by a grand group of sycophants. And admittedly, this isn't unique to Trump. I mean, we saw the same with Obama and with Bush, but Trump has now taken it to a new level and willing to believe that he can kill anybody that he wants with no pushback.
Yeah. Colonel Dan Bongino is leaving the administration, the FBI.
Never did anything anyway, so now what's happening?
Yeah, look at Dan Bongino and his position, during the Epstein file, and then the Charlie Kirk's assassination. And he said that he feels the guy who was, who's in prison right now, he killed Charlie Kirk. Somehow, when you look at the way that he's tweeting right now, he's putting his post on X, you feel that he somehow feels that how damaging this short period of time that he was in the FBI is damaging his public opinion, his public personality. He had a show, everyone respects him, and right now the people are considering him part of the establishment. That's why I think he's getting out of FBI. But it shows huge differences are happening within the Trump administration, and the people are not happy with what's going on in FBI.
Well, Nima, if you're a member of the Trump administration of some consequence, that means cabinet or just sub-cabinet, one level, or someone in an agency that's very exposed. Like, for example, people don't talk about this very much, but forestries and fisheries and such, who are doing irreparable damage to the Pacific Northwest, for example. If you're one of those people, you don't have a future other than being a podcaster for the remnants of the MAGA crowd. That's all the future you have. Who would want any of these people? Who would want Scott Bessent? Who would not want Kristi Noem? Who would want Marco Rubio? Who would want J.D. Vance? Who would want any of them, really, for significant positions in a future government? That's my greatest concern for the two-party system and the Republicans. Democrats are broken, totally broken, but at least they're scratching around in the hustings trying to find some future. And I think they're going to get rid of people like Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer and a host of others, including Barack Obama. Now, Michelle's got some sense. I'd like to see them keep her, but Barack, they can get rid of him too. Bill Clinton, get rid of him immediately. They might survive, but how's the Republican Party going to survive Donald Trump?
Well, yeah, I'd put J.D. Vance in a different category, just simply if you saw his recent remarks, where he had the audacity to suggest that being critical of Israel was not anti-Semitic. Now, that's one of the first sane things I've heard come out of the Trump administration on this point. But you know, there's a video clip that surfaced of Bongino before he went into government. He's being interviewed by this woman, and she said, what cause is closer, most dearest to your heart?" And he said, "Israel." You can't make this up, and I wouldn't put it past that he's resigning to go back into the realm of podcast, and he'll pull down $7,000 an episode maybe from the Israeli government to try to counter the anti-Israel sentiment that is growing and spreading throughout the under 40 crowd. And for those of us in the over 60 crowd, it's spreading with me too. Okay.
Mhm.
The if Bongino thinks that he's going to go back out, yeah, because he was a popular podcaster before going in, he has alienated his audience. He's discredited himself. The things that they claimed that they were going to do, they haven't done at all. And in fact, Bongino is directly implicated in covering up the Epstein case. He was, even before he was confirmed as a deputy director of the FBI, he was helping edit the information, blacking out. So he's directly involved with this cover up. And then I don't know did you see the podcast where, Stephen Miller's wife, Katie, I guess is her name. She did an interview with Kash Patel and his girlfriend. Oh my God. You talk about making your skin crawl. And Kash Patel is a buffoon. He is. I used to think he actually had something on the ball. He'd been a lawyer at JSOC, and he was a point guy for Devin Nunes and investigating Russiagate. But man, his judgment is just appalling.
You're beginning to see some Trump complimentary people. That is to say, Trump picked people who were very much like him.
Yeah.
They're insane, insane, incompetent, garrulous, and not much of a future looking at them.
Yeah.